Chapter 6. The Street. If I had been astonished at first at catching a glimpse of so outlandish an individual as Queequeg circulating among the polite society of a civilized town, that astonishment soon departed upon taking my first daylight stroll through the streets of New Bedford. In thoroughfares nigh the docks, any considerable seaport will frequently offer to view the queerest-looking nondescripts from foreign parts. Even in Broadway and Chestnut Streets, Mediterranean mariners will sometimes jostle the affrighted ladies. Regent Street is not unknown to Lascars and Malays, and at Bombay in the Apollo Green live live Yankees have often scared the natives. But New Bedford beats all Water Street and Wapping. In these last-mentioned haunts you only see sailors, but in New Bedford actual cannibals stand chatting at the street corners, savages outright, many of whom yet carry on their bones unholy flesh. It makes a stranger stare. But besides the Fijians, Tongatobarans, Aromangoans, Panagians, and Brigagians, and beside the wild specimens of the whaling craft which unhealed reel about in the streets, you will see other sights still more curious, certainly more comical. There weekly arrive in this town scores of green Vermonters and New Hampshiremen, all athirst for gain and glory in the fishery. They are mostly young of stalwart frames, fellows who have felled forests and now seek to drop the axe and snatch the whale lands. Many are as green as the green mountains whence they came. In some things you would think them but a few hours old. Look there, that chap's strutting around the corner. He wears a beaver hat and swallow-tailed coat, girdled with a sailor belt and sheath knife. Here comes another sou'wester with a bombazine cloak. No town-bred dandy will compare with a country-bred one. I mean downright bumpkin dandy, and fellow that. In dog days will mow his 2 acres in buckskin gloves for fear of tanning his hands. When a country dandy like this takes it into his head to make a distinguished reputation and joins the great whale fishery, you should see the comical things he does upon reaching the seaport. In bespeaking his sea outfit, he orders bell buttons to his waistcoats, straps to canvas trousers. Ah, poor hayseed, how bitterly will burst those straps in the first howling gale when thou art driven, straps, buttons, and all, down into the throat of the tempest. But think not that this famous town has only harpooners, cannibals, and bumpkins to show her visitors. Not at all. Still, New Bedford is a queer place. Had it not been for us whalemen, that tract of land would this day perhaps have been in as howling condition as the coast of Labrador. As it is, parts of her back country are enough to frighten one, they look so bony. The town itself is perhaps the dearest place to live in all of New England. It is a land of oil, true enough, but not like Canaan. A land also of corn and wine. The streets do not run with milk, nor in the springtime do they pave them with fresh eggs. Yet, in spite of this, nowhere in all America will you find more patrician-like houses, parks and gardens more opulent than in New Bedford. Whence came they? How planted upon this once scraggy scoria of a country? Go and gaze upon the iron emblematic harpoons round yonder lofty mansion, and your questions will be answered. Yes, all these brave houses and flowery gardens came from the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. One and all they were harpooned and dragged up hither from the bottom of the sea. Can Herr Alexander perform a feat like that? In New Bedford, fathers, they say, give whales for dowers to their daughters, and portion off their nieces with a few porpoises apiece. You must go to New Bedford to see the brilliant wedding, for they say they have reservoirs of oil in every house, and every night recklessly burn their lynx and spermaceti candles. In summertime, the town is sweet to see, full of fine maples, long avenues of green and gold, and in August, high in the air, the beautiful and bountiful horse chestnuts, candelabra-wise, proffer the passer-by their tapering upright cones of congregated blossoms. So omnipotent is art, which in many a district of New Bedford has superinduced bright terraces of flowers upon the barren refuse rocks thrown aside at creation's final day. And the women of New Bedford, they bloom like their own red roses, but roses only bloom in summer, whereas the fine carnation of their cheeks is perennial as sunlight in the seventh heavens. Elsewhere match that bloom of theirs ye cannot, save in Salem, where they tell me the young girls breathe such mucks, their sailors' sweethearts smell them miles offshore, as though they were drawing nigh the odorous Malaccas instead of the puritanical sands. This is the end of chapter 6. So Ishmael does some people watching. And people watching is kind of a fun thing to do. Sometimes it's like gaping at the tourists, because if you go to like Times Square in when you go to Times Square in New York again, we took you there a bit ago, but when you go again and you're more used to things, you'll see the street performers and you'll see the peddlers and you'll see all of that, and then you'll see the people gaping at them. And that's kind of what Ishmael is doing here. He's gawking at the people who are gawking. Because New Bedford at this time was a whaling port. And there was a whole bunch of money coming in. Because the primary source of light at this time was whale oil. And so if you had to light a house, if you had to light a room, if you had to, if you needed light in the middle of the night, the best option at this time was whale oil, because kerosene hadn't really been invented yet. They were just starting to dig oil out of the ground, which meant that you either had to go with beeswax, which is very expensive, because you figured that you have a hive full of bees, you get maybe 10-15 candles out of it per year, and that's like super expensive to make beeswax candles. You had tallow candles, which weren't good as beeswax candles because they smoked, and you only got a couple dozen, a few dozen out of those out of each cow, so that was a lot of, you didn't really kill cows every week, so candles were expensive. Either tallow or beeswax. Both of them were difficult and hard to get. They didn't have kerosene yet. They didn't have electricity yet. I mean, electricity existed, but it was just kind of this, hey, look at what I can do. It wasn't really a thing in houses, and it was a scientific curiosity. It was just like a half dozen people poking bits of metal into things and going, hey, look, I can make a lamp out of a potato. But this was even before potato lamps. But anyway, so it was whale oil, because there were lots and lots of whales in the ocean at this time, more than there are now, because they were hunted almost to extinction. And so there were lots of whales. Whale is mostly fat, which means that you take the whale, you render it down, and you get all of this oil. And so the fishermen go out, get the whales, bring them back, and the people in the town sell supplies to the fishermen and sell oil to everyone else who brings in supplies. And because the fishermen really need supplies but don't need oil, and the people on the outside need oil but don't really need the supplies so much, you can get a lot of money by arbitraging that. Arbitraging is buying low and selling high in different places. So you can make a lot of money arbitraging the whalemen's need for supply and the mainland's need for oil. So the town became rich, which drew in people. And it drew in all sorts of people who were like, hey, I'm going to make it rich with oil. Because that was one of the options back in the day. You have a ship, 50 people go out, they each come back with a barrel full of oil. The oil goes for hundreds of dollars. I mean, a barrel of oil is still $100 today, so, And $100 then was a lot of money. So, people go out, whale, come back, sell the oil, get rich. So this was, people sought to become whalemen. And, Queequeg as a harpooner is what all of these people endeavored to be, because the harpooners were just like at the top. You have the person who owns the ship, and you have his officers who run the ship, and then you have the harpooners. And then you have everybody else. And Ishmael knows that he's going to be everybody else. And Queequeg is up here as a harpooner. And he carries his harpoon around with him all of the time. And he's a little bit odd. And because he's a little bit odd, that makes you think that he's probably pretty darn good at harpooning. So, they have all of this money from whaling. And all of these signs of, hey, this is, whaling is where the town gets its money. And then Ishmael gawks at the people who, put on gloves to plow their fields so their hands don't get tanned. And I know you can't see this really, but, my hands are tanned. I mean, look at the white line from my watch. I wear the watch all the time when I'm outside. And when I hiked in Spain, I didn't take the watch because I wasn't sure I'd be able to charge it. And so left the watch at home. And that was the only place I got a sunburn, was right there where the watch was. But anyway, so Ishmael is gawking at all of these people, these dandies from the city, these dandies from the country, everybody there trying to make a quick buck, without realizing that the real quick buck is in the arbitraging. Just like the gold rush that happened in California right around the same time as this story, maybe a little bit after, happened right around the time of this story, was a lot of people went out to California to try and make money in gold. The people who really, really, really made out like bandits were people like Levi Strauss, and you've heard of Levi's jeans. That's where it started. He was like, okay, I'm going to go dig for gold. He's like, this sucks. It's like, I can make pants. So he took tents, and he cut them up, and he made pants, and he sold them as work pants. And he made money selling work pants. So he called back east. He says, send me fabric. Gets sent the fabric, starts making more pants. It just pulls in money hand over fist. So people like that who are like, okay, I'll go and I'll get supplies. I'll sell it to the people who are mining. And the people who are mining are like, either they came from back east with cash to buy stuff and go digging for gold, or they were actually successful and dug for gold and have gold. So it was like, okay, not selling anything on credit, just pulling in the money, pulling in the money, pulling in the money. So that is the town. And really, once again, not much happened. I mean, Ishmael goes out for a walk and gawks at the people, gawking at Queequeg, and gawks kind of at the other people. And that was, nothing happened.